Hey guys, it's Phil from PR Moves back again for another video today. Today we're actually going to be doing a fantasy football video. I've already gone through 2 fantasy football drafts, and as we approach training camp season in the end of July, pretty sure the amount of fantasy football content is going to be spiking, so I'm going to want to jump on it early. We're going to be doing plenty of fantasy football videos. I love talking about fantasy football. It's one of the best parts of football in the modern game. So today we're going to be talking about 5 wide receivers that you should avoid drafting in fantasy football this year. It's going to be a nice video, so let's jump right into it. I'll see you guys on the other side. Alright, so today we're going over the 5 wide receivers to not draft in fantasy football, and we're of course going to start that off with a guy who's gotten a lot of slack early in his career, but I don't think is going to improve much in his second season, and that is Jalen Reagor. Doesn't really matter. Okay, why not Jalen Reagor? He's now the wide receiver 2. That's not really that big of a deal, though. That can often help out a receiver like Jalen Reagor. Receivers like Juju Smith-Schuster and Adam Thielen have had wide receiver 1s across from them their entire career, and they're still great fantasy wide receivers. So why is Jalen Reagor's value decreasing now that he is wide receiver 2? Well, 2 reasons. The Devontae Smith-Jalen Hurts connection, and the fact that Jalen Hurts is a one-read quarterback. Devontae Smith is the perfect one-read wide receiver for Jalen Hurts. Jalen Hurts, if you go back and you watch his 4 games he played in last year, 5 games he played in last year, it was very much, I'm going to look at the first read, and then when the first read wasn't there, I'm going to scramble. That was kind of his MO the entirety of his starting 4 games. So if he's not even looking Reagor's way most plays, because it's likely he's going to be looking Devontae Smith's way on most plays, Reagor's going to suffer. And plus, if Ertz is still on that roster, Zach Ertz, I could imagine that Zach Ertz and Dallas Goedert would also be receiving more targets than Jalen Reagor. So while you might be in your fantasy drafts and you might look and say, ooh, Jalen Reagor, or a dynasty draft, you might say, ooh, Jalen Reagor is a young wide receiver who's going to be super valued for just being that wide receiver 2 on a pass-heavy team, which we assume Nick Sirianni is going to be very pass-heavy. I wouldn't buy into Jalen Reagor just because of how a young receiver is going to come in and take over most of his snaps. If Devontae Smith wasn't there, I would say Jalen Reagor actually would be a huge benefit to a dynasty league or a one-year league where he would probably be the first wide receiver targeted on most plays. All right, and that brings us, speaking of young receivers taking over another player's snaps, Marquez Valdes-Scantling. MVS, I think, had a very polarizing year last year. He was either considered the best deep threat in the league or the worst wide receiver in the league with terrible drops. Now, I think MVS is an exceptionally talented athlete. He's one of the fastest players in the league, and he's like 6'4", 220. He is a giant person who runs extremely fast. But again, 2 reasons why he's not going to be the same receiver fantasy-wise he was last year: the return of Devin Funchess onto the team and the drafting of Amari Rodgers. Now, I don't know if Funchess is going to take all of MVS's snaps. LaFleur likes to switch out his receivers and formations on a consistent weekly basis. But I think it's very fair to say if Funchess returns and he's as good as he was in Indianapolis and Carolina, then he's probably going to be playing the outside perimeter 2 receiver that MVS played a lot of last year. And then Amari Rodgers joining the team is just going to be kicking MVS down even farther, because those slot snaps that MVS could be taking are now going to be filled by an exceptionally talented slot receiver, and a receiver I think will be one of the best rookie receivers in the league, Amari Rodgers. So that's why MVS should not be drafted in especially dynasty leagues, but fantasy leagues, MVS should not be a guy you are considerably targeting, because Funchess and Rodgers are going to be taking his snaps. I'm not saying go after Funchess or Rodgers, but MVS is not going to be a very viable option, even though websites like ESPN and Sleeper have him pretty highly rated. And then we got number 3, the only rookie receiver on this list, but I think it's an interesting one, and that's Jalen Waddle, the second receiver taken right after Jamar Chase. Jalen Waddle is very much a run after the catch deep threat receiver. He's one of the fastest receivers to enter this year. I think overall he was potentially the best receiver in this draft. But why isn't he very draftable in fantasy football this year? Because the Dolphins signed Will Fuller. Now, I'm not a Dolphins fan. I don't keep up with the Dolphins like super often, but Jalen Waddle and Will Fuller are very similar players. They are both slot deep threats, and when they're not in the slot, they're going to be running the slant and the run after catch type plays that Tua is going to be reliant on. So yeah, Jalen Waddle is probably a better option than, say, MVS Reagor or the guy two people I have beneath them, but I wouldn't keep Jalen Waddle on a normal fantasy league. I have him in a dynasty league because I think as soon as Will Fuller's contract is out, I think Jalen Waddle is going to be the number one option in that offense, and I actually don't think he's going to get as much touches as, say, Will Fuller is in that deep ball run after catch niche that Will Fuller is kind of known for, and he's really established himself as, if he can keep himself healthy and keep himself off drugs. So Jalen Waddle, I think, will be the least productive of the high drafted rookie wide receivers. And speaking of rookie wide receivers coming and taking another player's snaps, we have to talk about Sterling Shepard. Sterling Shepard is the longtime receiver for the New York Giants, but the Giants stocked up on receivers over the past few seasons. They drafted Darius Slayton, a really nice outside perimeter receiver. They didn't draft Kenny Galladay. They signed him in free agency, and he's going to be one of the best deep threat jump ball receivers in the entire league, alongside Daniel Jones, who, when he has the time in the pocket, is actually one of the better downfield throwers in the entire league. So why isn't Sterling Shepard able to really get into the offense? Because of Kadarius Toney. Kadarius Toney, I think, is going to take those slot snaps that Sterling Shepard ran a lot of last year. It was really him and Golden Tate switching out of the slot, and now that I think Toney is there, I really think Toney is going to take those snaps away from Sterling Shepard. And while I think Shepard's a very valuable receiver, I actually think he's a trade candidate this year. I think if there's a team that needs a slot receiver, I think Sterling Shepard is on the trade block. And Giants fans, any fans of these teams, correct me if I'm wrong in the comments, but I don't think Sterling Shepard is going to get considerable playing time if they have Toney, Slayton, Galladay, and as well as Evan Ingram, who isn't that great, but him and Kyle Rudolph at tight end, one of the better tight end duos in the league. So Shepard is not going to get a ton of playing time. I wouldn't be drafting him almost at all in my fantasy leagues. He would be this player got injured on the Giants, let's go sign him off the waiver type of player. And then we got number 5, the new wide receiver for the Los Angeles Rams, and that's going to be Deshaun Jackson. Now, Jackson was signed in free agency on a veteran minimum contract. He's going to be wearing number 1 in LA, which I think is pretty cool. I think more players need to be using this number rule. I like it. But he's not going to get the amount of snaps that people think he's going to be getting. Now, why is that? First of all, the Rams run a ton of 12 personnel. At least they have over the past few years. As well as the fact that means 2 tight ends. For someone who's not aware, 12 personnel is 2 tight ends. So I think that's going to mean that Robert Woods and Cooper Kupp are the 2 receivers. And I think if they're going to bring out a 3rd receiver for Matt Stafford to throw to, I think it's going to be the 2 younger guys in Van Jefferson and Tutu Atwell. So I don't think Deshaun Jackson is going to be getting the deep looks that he's typically known for. He'll probably have 1 or 2 games where he's a considerably good receiver, like last year and the year before when he wasn't really healthy. But Deshaun Jackson, really avoid him in fantasy. Rams run a lot of 12 personnel, and I think Jefferson, Woods, Kupp, and Atwell are going to be taking all of the wide receiver snaps for this Rams team. And that pretty much wraps up this video. So I do really appreciate you guys all watching. I'm going to be trying to get a video up every single day. I already have 2 other fantasy football videos planned out. That might be tomorrow's video. Who knows? I would like to get over the division predictions, my division revisions, and then, which is just 1 video, and then I'll likely preview Bears training camp before we start talking about the preseason. So I do really appreciate you guys all watching, and I will talk to you guys all later. Thank you guys so much. Peace out.